You read right to left.
Yes.
I'm just like a walking comedian.
Basically, yeah. That's.
Let's see who the first people are to sit over there on the left-hand side.
Oh, I think I know who it's going to be.
On the left-hand side to break the mold. Let's see, like the Mangans are here. They sit on the left.
No, they're going to sit back here.
Miriam's iPad.
I'm,
This is our one Zoom Shabbat a month. No, we do probably do it once or twice more during the winter. Zoom Shabbat. We don't say it's Zoom Shabbat. We just do Zoom. Yeah,
are we muted?
we are not.
Cool. So
I've
they all
unmuted.
now know that it's Zoom Shabbat.
Well, yes, they knew it because they're on.
I know, I was making
Right.
a joke. Because you said we weren't saying it, and now you're saying
No,
it.
we weren't saying that it's Zoom Shabbat. We aren't calling it Zoom Shabbat. We
Got
were
it.
just,
Okay.
That's what I meant. We just said here's the right
There's a Zoom link.
Zoom link. Correct.
But say here's
That's even further away from the left-hand
if I
side.
was like Sarit and all of a sudden put a phone, I could figure
Correct.
out if I could Zoom or
Correct.
stream.
Correct. And so, right. So no, it just means that we haven't been zooming,
All the time.
which again I do believe is the right thing. But well, Bob Berkovitz just arrived. Yep. Yep. I always love the view. All right. So what time you got? 7:31. Look at that. Well, because
I got myself here. Yeah, only when I wanted Ned Hughes stream.
that's right. We'll start with
Only
that.
that.
Great way to start Shabbat Shalom. So happy to see you here. Welcome to our visitors who are here with us this evening. Just to give you a little, Judaism 101. This is the book we're going to be using during the service. It opens from right to left. It reads right to left. Everything that we do, and we're going to be doing a lot of Hebrew. Everything that we do in Hebrew has the transliteration right next to it. So you can follow along with everything if you want to. And if you're wondering what it is that thing we just sang means, usually look right below it, and you're going to find the translation. So next to it is the transliteration, below it is the translation, and just kind of give you a little sense because there's going to be a lot of Hebrew. If you're wondering, by the way, do all the people in this room know what these songs mean? Everyone seems to be singing along. They must really know what everything means. The answer? Most of them do not know what the words they're singing mean. Some people in this room do, but most do not. I do not mean to say that in any way, which is suggesting that, people are just have no idea, or ignoramuses. It's not the point. It's Hebrew. It's a tough language. And, but think of it like an opera. If you like classical music, at some point you start to remember and know the words to the opera, even if you don't speak Italian. But you still like Puccini's work. That's how it is here too. So hopefully you join along. Most of the stuff we do is kind of catchy, easy to pick up on. No one, unless you want, converts to Judaism by singing along. We're just happy to have you here. So Shabbat Shalom. Also Shabbat Shalom to those who are here on Zoom. We have every month or so, we allow Zoom to enter into our sanctuary. You have no idea who these people are, only me. And unfortunately, I didn't think fast enough, but the people who are on Zoom, I know that you want to participate at times, but I don't think you are going to be able to this evening because we don't really have a very strong speaker to hear you. So we'll see, we'll try, but the chances are we're not going to be able to have you participate because we can't really hear you tonight. But I know you can hear us, and we're watching you, and we can see each other's faces, and I'm so glad. And also there are people who are with us on stream. That's a pretty typical one these days. Welcome to those who are on stream. My name's Ari Goldstein, Rabbi Ari Goldstein. This is Cantor Gabe Snyder, and we're just so glad to be together. So, we are going to begin with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. You can find the blessing for the kindling of the Shabbat candles on page 120. However, before we sing this song and light these candles, I would like to invite forward Tyler Smulo and his family to join us here on the bima. Tyler's going to become bar mitzvah tomorrow. And so he has the honor with his family of lighting the Shabbat candles and leading us in Kiddush. These prayers can be found, the English reading can be found on page 121, and the prayer for the blessing of the candles on page 120. Hold this. This is what you're reading from here to there. But one more second. From here to there. Not there and go ahead. As these Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we be our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Here's your moment. Don't worry, no one's watching. I promise. Well, some people are watching. Move the finger away from that.
This is the hardest part of the bar mitzvah process. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We're now on page 123 as we continue with the Kiddush. So first line together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam lo-rei lo-ri ha-gaf. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinvatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. No? It's good. All right. You sure? All right. Yeah, it's good. Too late now. See you back in an hour. All right, so our service continues with what? What shall we sing? Lecha Dodi. Okay, so Lecha Dodi, this, I've said, keep doing this, don't worry, I'll be slow, I'll be quick. Lecha Dodi is a poem. So many things in our service and our liturgy are from the Talmud or from the Bible even, but this is a poem written by the Kabbalists, the mystics of Sfat, and they had different traditions. And one of their traditions was to see Shabbat as a bride and connect with Shabbat in the way that like they're married to Shabbat. And so at the end of Lecha Dodi, we're going to do, by the way, Lecha Dodi is on page 138. And we're going to do verse 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to the 9th verse, that's the one that speaks about like a bride. Boi chala, that means come, my bride, come, my bride. And so when we reach that last verse, I'm going to invite you to stand up and face the entrance to the sanctuary. And the reason why is because, think of it. Imagine like it's a wedding, and the bride is walking in for the first time, and everyone, what do you do when you're at a wedding and you see the bride come in? You stand up, everyone turns and faces her. And so that's what we're doing here. So when we get to the final verse, I'll remind you, and I'll invite you to rise and face the entrance to greet the Sabbath bride. This is Lecha Dodi, page 138.
Yadadai, 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 Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Kishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai לשם ותפארת ולתהילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבת תחילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומיורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלי נגלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise again, face the entrance. There's the bride. See her, be enamored by her. Look how beautiful she is.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובסוף עולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, 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 ידעי, ידעי,
Please remain standing. We're on page 146 as we continue with our call to worship. So many faiths have a call to worship. If you go to the various different Muslim Arab countries in this world, you have a muezzin who chants in the loudspeaker. And what's that chant? It's saying, hey, it's time to pray. The time has come. And this for us is the same thing. The Baruch Hu is our call to worship. Page 146. Page 150, everlasting love. You're welcome to join me, by the way. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, We will meditate on your laws and commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Please be seated.
Me'ata et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom ad levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We're on 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, a song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, of soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Facing page 158.
Ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh. Malechutecha ra'u anecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeli anu ve'ameru Adonai Himno Leolam Vaed Menemar Hifata Adonai Et Yaakov Ugealom Yad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Our service continues on 160. This is our prayer, which is essentially it's a way of asking God to just give us a nice, restful night. Whether you're kept up because you just have a hard time sleeping through the night, or you're kept up because your time zones are all off, or you're kept up because you've got babies crying in the background, or dogs chirping, or animals in the house, all sorts of things keep us up at night or keep us from getting a good night's sleep. And, this is our way of saying, please, God, let us go rest down to sleep restfully and wake us up tomorrow morning rejuvenated and ready to greet the next day. So this is Hashkivenu, page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Ushmor Tzeitzenu Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
So our service continues now on page 164. This is the meat, the heart of our Shabbat service. This is the tefillah. 164, then it goes on to 166, 168, and 170. And maybe I'll try my best to announce the page, but it's happening so fast. But I'll do my best to keep you up to date on the page numbers. But for now, 164 is where we start, and we'd like to ask you to please rise.
Yadadai, 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 Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi adi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadadai, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר, מכמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומם מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. I didn't tell you what page we were on at all, and I'm really sorry about that, but I was just kind of getting in the mood. I couldn't stop myself. I'll tell you now, though, we're on page 173. Top of the page, feel free to join me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Our evening prayer for peace. In fact, peace is everywhere in our service and in the Torah, in the Bible. There are a few words of consequence that are more regularly used than shalom, peace. And it is central to who we are. And peace, by the way, means far more than just the absence of war or the absence of struggle. Peace means wholeness and completion. In fact, the word shalom comes from the Hebrew word shalem, which means whole or complete. And so there is a sense when you're at shalom, you're not just at peace, meaning an absence from war, but you're feeling whole. You're feeling content. And so we pray for that sense of contentment, peace, wholeness, all this. Evening prayer for peace, 178, it's called Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael, bechol עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, v'shalom. All All right, so if you want, you're welcome to put your siddur, your prayer book down, and that is because this is an opportunity for us to share a little bit, to talk a little bit about what's been going on in our lives, the positives, the struggles, and in doing so, create a sense of community, because that's ultimately what we look for, a sense of community, a sense of connection with others. And so our tradition here at the temple is to pause for a moment and give each people a chance to just share a few words, if they want to, of the things that have brought you joy recently. So if you've experienced joy in the last couple weeks and you would like to share that joy, we want to hear about it. Just raise your hand. I got a microphone here for you. And Cookie, I'm not going to pass Paul up to get to you, but don't worry. Paul, what's your joy?
My wife and I recently celebrated our 70th wedding anniversary.
Wow, 70th wedding anniversary, which seems impossible because Toby's 78.
91.
Oh, she's 91. Well, then that explains why it's possible.
I'm
94 and a half, and she's 91.
Yes.
You know, you say 94 and a half, much like my kids when they were 4 and a half used to say it. They're like, I'm not 4, I'm 4 and a half. You're 94 and a half. Have you been saying the halves all for your whole lifetime, or have you just been doing, is that a recent thing?
Well, it's relatively recent.
I'm sure you've got good reason. You've got good reason. Mazel tov on 70 years of marriage. That's amazing. I think that we can all say, or anyone who has experienced marriage, you're like, wow. No, what I mean by that is, you laughed before I didn't mean it that way, although I did kind of mean it that way, but I didn't really. What I was trying to say was that, people think that marriage is, like you found like your beshert and you found like the perfect person and everything is just golden and beautiful. And yes, you share a lot of, lovely experiences together, but also I think we know that, that if you're going to have a good marriage, it's because you've worked at it, right? And so the 70 years means 70 years of commitment, of dedication, of hard work. And
It wasn't always without difficulty.
that's right. That's right. It wasn't always without difficulties, and that's my point. And in that it's like, so 70 years, each year when a person says they've been married for a certain number of years, I think that you're impressed as much as you are anything else about, wow, it's amazing, because that means you worked hard for 70 years. So mazel tov. To Toby too, by the way. Something tells me she deserves a little bit more of a mazel tov than you do, but I'm going to mazel tov. Cookie, you have joy. Big joy.
Our son Eric got a new job, moved out, and is very happy. He's tutoring and mentoring teenagers with special needs and with addiction issues and everything, and he is the happiest person in the world, which makes us the happiest people in the world. Yes.
I'm so glad to hear that. That is, and what a noble thing that he's doing. Mazel tov.
My joy is that my son will be here within the hour, and
Just before you, it's our son is gone. And yours is the son is coming. Which joy do we go? We're going to go with both joys.
and these are two boys that grew up in each other's cradles, basically.
Mazel tov. I'm so glad you got the house coming back together again. Tell me other joy here. Anyone want to share joy? Miranda, you get the microphone.
Our principal got duct taped to the wall.
So wait.
We got to see it.
The teachers got slimed and your principal got duct taped to the wall? Today. Wow. Was your principal able to, couldn't move? Oh my God. Was the principal, is it a he or a she? Was he standing on a table or something? And then they duct taped and they pulled the table out? With a chair, right. Wow. And I have one last question. Why did this bring you joy?
Sounds like something out of a cartoon.
What, has your principal been somewhat cruel? So your principal's nice? Because you would have put all the rolls of duct tape on for her? Oh, you didn't, because you like her too. See, I'm telling you, why the joy? You should have gotten in there and cut that tape down and said, I will not stand for this. I love my principal. No, I'm joking. I think I know that it's probably a lot of fun to watch your principal get duct taped. Can't say I've ever watched it myself. If you can find me the YouTube video of that, I would be appreciative. Anybody else have joy? All right. Okay, great. You get the mic.
So it's actually an accomplishment by another member of this temple. It's my favorite colleague at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Josh Kurtz. He was announced the new secretary of the Department of Natural Resources, a very high-level role in state government. And I'll miss him at CBF, but I'm very proud of Josh, and we'll do a l'chaim for him later, I'm sure.
Awesome. That's really great news. Great news. Anybody else want to share? All right, then. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody. And again, I'm sorry to those people on Zoom, but I don't think we have the speaker on to hear you, but I assume you've got joy too. But so the blessing we say, Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim. We praise you, Adonai, our God, for partnering with us in the various elements of joy that are in our lives. Amen. So flip it. We recognize that our lives are not just filled with joy, but rather there is struggle as well. Some people are struggling physically, others are struggling emotionally, and we care deeply about those struggles. And so we have a blessing that we say called Misha Berach. And our tradition here is that I'll begin this blessing. In Hebrew, I'll translate it as well. And then halfway through the blessing, I'll pause. And if you would like to share the name of a person who is in need of healing, you're welcome to do so. And I'll kind of look around the room, and when my eye kind of reaches yours, you're welcome to share the name of a person in need of healing. You can say your own name. You can say someone else's name. You can say a person's name in Hebrew or in English. Healing, 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 whatever you want. So the blessing begins this way. Misha Berach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. V'imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. Those words mean, may the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. Hu yivarech v'yirapet kol hacholim shelanu. May God bless and heal all of our loved ones who are in need of healing, especially the ones whom we name at this time. And so if you wish to share the name of a loved one in need of healing, please feel free to do so when my eye meets your area of the room. Thank you. And it's just a few other names. Thank you. Eric Harris, Laura McDaniel, Mark Koppelman, and Rich Harrison. Shlach lehem bimheira refuah shalema. May God send them speedily a complete recovery. Refuah. Turn to page 371. Find the words to Shabbat, the musical version of that, composed and written by Debbie Friedman. You're welcome at this time to turn and join us in Shabbat.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Misheverach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We pause now for a moment of silence. Page 180.
Ose shalom bimroma v'yase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma v'yase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma v'yase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma v'yase shalom aleinu ve'al kol
So one of the things about the Jewish calendar, which is a little kind of bizarre and strange, is that when we're reading the part about Passover, it's not during Passover. And so, so Passover is not until April, and yet at the same time, the story of Passover, at least as we know it, is part of last week's Torah portion, this week's Torah portion, next week's Torah portion. We're kind of right in the middle. Shemot, Va'era, Bo. Those are the three that make up the story of Passover as we know it. In fact, if you really, really want to have a real learning experience about this story, you should probably ask Cantor Snyder. And the reason why is because he is writing his thesis at school on not the Passover story, although I wish it was, but he's writing his thesis on a movie, not called The Ten Commandments, as we all think, but called The Prince of Egypt, the Disney movie that came out probably 10 years ago. And it's a remarkable story, and it talks all about and the movie contains so many legends from Jewish tradition that are not part of the Torah, and so that's the essence of his, well, not the essence, but that's a big part of his thesis. And because it's a captivating story. It's an amazing, amazing story. And this week, this week's Torah portion, Va'era, it picks up right after Moses is called by God to go and free the Israelites. And right after he tries, he confronts Pharaoh the first time, this time with staffs, and he, throws down his staff and turns into a serpent. And I'm starting to get over my fear of snakes, kinda. But that would have been it for me. If the staff went down, turns into a black mamba, you win. That's all we need to do. The slaves are free. But however, the Pharaoh's magicians were able to do the same trick. I'm not exactly sure how they did. It must have been distraction. One magician throws down the staff, the other magician says, "Oh my God, is that Joe Biden over there?" And then he quickly throws a snake down and picks up the, that's how it happened, because staffs don't just turn into snakes, at least not that I know of. But regardless, still the Pharaoh's magicians do the same trick, and Moses is a little disappointed. And he goes back to God. And he says to God, "I don't think I'm the right man to do this whole liberating the Israelites thing. I don't think I have it in me." And God says 4 kind of really remarkable words that have puzzled our tradition for a long time, and I suspect you might have an eyebrow raise also when you hear the 4 words that God says to Moses. He says, "Re'eh nataticha Elohim leFaro." And those words, Re'eh, means look or behold, but look. It says, Nataticha, I have placed you, leElohim, as God, leFaro, to Pharaoh. And I'm sure that you're probably thinking the same thing that every single one of the commentators thought too, which is, whoa. Did God just make Moses a god? Did he, dub him, I dub you now God, right? Because that's how it sounds. And the commentators really struggle with it. And so Rashi, of course, the famous commentator of our people, says, oh, he didn't make him a god. I don't think he used that kind of sarcastic, but I'm pretty sure it was something like that. He says he did not make him a god. Rather, he was simply making him an agent. And that simplifies everything Just because it says, I'm making you a god to Pharaoh, doesn't mean he's actually making him a god. Rather, it means he's making him his agent. All right, Rashi's the most famous of our commentators. That's a possibility. But then enter our Midrash. You know the Midrash, written over the course of a number of centuries, but written by the early rabbis. This was composed in sometime between the 2nd or 3rd century and the 5th, 6th century. And the Midrash goes on to say, no. God made Moses a god, and look at how impressive that is. Take a look that God is not a jealous God. God is so comfortable with God's place that God can even name other people gods and it won't affect God at all. Don't really like that interpretation, but it's okay. So then enter another one, another commentator of ours. This guy's name is Malbim, and Malbim says, again, and he says something which so many people said also. He said, no. He said God made Moses a god temporarily to even the playing field, because Pharaoh saw himself as a god. So therefore, it wouldn't be fair if you had one god versus one kind of regular person, albeit Moses. And so he says, no. He kind of gave him a temporary God pass, so he would be raised to the same place as Pharaoh. And so when they were kind of jousting with each other, it was God to God. That's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. But then enter one last one. One last one. And, by the way, I can imagine that must have been a pretty reassuring thing by God to say to Moses, I've got confidence in you. In fact, I'm even elevating you to God status, because Moses was coming in somewhat dejected. But then this last one, Me'am Loez, had the really kind of a beautiful interpretation, which I want to share with you. And all of those other three were just me sharing all the different possibilities, but really this is the one I like the most. Me'am Loez says, God looked at Moses at that moment with his heart out, dejected, disappointed, afraid, feeling like he was a fraud. And at that moment, when Moses was showing so much vulnerability, God saw the divine in Moses. And at that moment, God said, it's as if you are a God at this moment, even to Pharaoh, because Moses was real. And Moses had put everything out there. And I'm touched by that. I'm touched by that because it reminds me of Martin Buber, who talked about, his great philosophical statement, which was that of the I-thou principle. The one in which, when you truly see another person as a you and not as an it, when you truly see that you're interacting with another person not in a way which is as a means to an end to get something, but rather just because the relationship is what matters. Then you bring God into your relationship. Well, that is kind of like what Me'am Loez is saying. That is essentially the point, which is that God, according to Me'am Loez, God saw in Moses something very real, something very raw, something very honest. And at that moment, God was there. And I think that in our world in which it's so easy for us to just kind of go from one experience to the next experience, wondering how it is that we will benefit, how it is that we don't, or rather, when we greet the various different relationships in our lives, not seeing the other person as a raw, honest you, or not portraying ourselves in that way, but rather in a superficial way, that's when there's nothing, there's no God. When it's real and raw, even in our world today, that's when it's when you see the God in the other one. It was like at that moment, God was a human at that moment, saying, I'm seeing you in a different way than I've ever seen you before, Moses. Vulnerable and real, and I like it. And it's a model for how we should behave also. So, maybe that'll, maybe you'll be inspired. A little bit more raw, a little bit more real. And if you can do it, a little bit more vulnerable, if you do it, maybe you're bringing a little bit more God into your life. We'll see. So, Kenyi, I hope that that's God's will. At this time, though, I ask that you reopen your prayer books. 586. When you get to 586, I'd like to invite you to please rise as we continue with Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, la'teinu la'yotzer reshit, shelo
Asanu ki goyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. So at this point in our service is a point for us of sacred memory. Loved ones from our congregation are no longer with us, and we have a special prayer that we say that reassures us of God's presence in our lives and also serves as a metaphor for remembering them as well. And so I'd like to share first two people who have passed away quite recently. The first is Albert Lapache, the stepfather of Susan Turnock. And the second, Natalie Rosenblum, mother of Howard Rosenblum. And I'd also like to remember at this time and mention, for the purposes of memory, these loved ones whose yahrzeits occur on this Shabbat. That, of course, means it's the anniversary of their passing. We remember Albert Cohen, Albert Hoffman, Gerard Payan, Olga Viola, Irene Greenberg, Celia Schatzberg, Judith Spitzer, Hillard Donner, Sam Greenspan, Mary Lou Kendrigan. We also remember at this time Louis Mangan, Orazio Consoli, Pauline Filer, Charlotte Fishman, Sue Goodman, Rachel Fox, Tilly Panman, Marty Beer, Henry Brown, Charles Gordon, Linda Lafferman, Bernard Pollock, and Norma Ivchevich. And so in gratitude for their lives and linking their names with the rest of our loved ones who have passed away, we remember them now with the words of our mourner's Kaddish. It can be found on page 598. If it's your custom, I invite you to please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechal beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei de Kudsha, Brechu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiram bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huya osei shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to every bereaved heart. And let us say amen. Please be seated. Thank you. So, our service is almost over. But before we conclude with the singing of Adon Olam, and that I'm pretty sure is on 625. It is. 625. Before we conclude with Adon Olam, allow me to share a few thank yous, a few announcements, and we need to do one more prayer. So, first of all, thank you to Merv Wiley-Browse, who served as our usher. She's not just any usher, the president as an usher. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Merv. To Mary West for joining us on the Bima. Thank you so much. Also to Fran and Luke Kushner, because they have sponsored the Oneg Shabbat, which is after the service out in the lobby. More to say. Welcome to all who are visiting our congregation this evening. If you want to ask Tanner Snyder or myself any questions, you are more than welcome to stop us right after the service and ask anything you want. But I would encourage you to first check the Oneg Shabbat, the reception afterwards. It's always very tasty. Mazel tov, of course, to Tyler Smulo. He's going to be a bar mitzvah tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, service tomorrow. So I've already wished him a mazel tov. I've already signed the certificate too. So you're in. You're a bar mitzvah. So mazel tov. So just a couple of announcements to share with you. In addition to Tyler being bar mitzvah tomorrow, tomorrow evening, the Annapolis Opera will be here in our sanctuary performing American musicals and their Jewish legacy, a program here. If it's not too late to RSVP, but you have to find the link in our weekly email. My classes, both Monday morning at 9:30, tour study, and Tuesday evening, which is the class on the sages, they are happening. Check the weekly email for more information. The men's club is meeting for lunch, as they do every single week at Silver Diner. Just show up. Double T Diner. Silver Diner or something else. Double T Diner. A movie, The Couple, in honor of International Holocaust Day. That is on Wednesday, the 25th of January, this Wednesday. And next week, Shabbat and family, and dinner, Mission Barbecue. That's always delicious. It's like a brisket, turkey, it's great. But that's the dinner, but there's Shabbat at 5:30 and family service at 7. That's with grades 4 and 5 participating along with our junior choir. So that's next Friday. And finally, we had to postpone our challah baking and braiding with Vered Mullen because someone, I won't say who, got COVID. Well, she doesn't have COVID anymore. And we have rescheduled. And that is for February 6th. And that is for adults. And then we're going to have another one, challah baking and braiding with your kids if you want. And that's on February 27th. So if you want to do it with adults, come on the 6th. If you want to do it with kids, come on the 27th. If you want to do it both times, hey, no one's stopping you. but see the weekly email for more information. I think I have said plenty. I'd like to bring Tyler back up here with brother and parents to help us lead us in the motzi. That can be found on, I don't know. You've probably said this prayer so many times you don't need the page. So just join us. Here, take one piece and just hold it as you took the end. I can't believe you did that. You ready to do the blessing with me? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Like, don't worry.
That's
It's a
not
false
an
alarm. I thought that was you, like strumming along. With
No, I think it's just Merv's phone.
Don't call her out. It could have been. I would have taken from the inside, but eat that.
She's good.
And you can have another piece later. We conclude 625 with the singing of Adon Olam. Go back to your seat. Nice job.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra ve'et na'asa v'nefsho azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu Betifara Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra ve'ein asa v'nefsho azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu betifara. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom umevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom umevorach.
Shabbat Shalom to you all. Thank you so much for being here. Join us in the lobby for an Oneg Shabbat. Welcome and Shabbat Shalom to all of you who are on Zoom. I see you. I see you all, and welcome to all who are on stream. Shabbat Shalom to you all, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. You can get up, hustle to get some food. Yummy.
I do need to make one correction.
What's that?
Prince of Egypt is DreamWorks 1998.
What did I say, 15 years ago, Disney?
Yeah.
1998? Is it really that old?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
God. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
You liked that key? We were happy with it?
No, that was too high.
It was the key.